A new record high this time. It's for sexual offences. The figures cover police recorded crime in England and Wales and come as the number of cases that reach court fall. Also this lunchtime, an away day for the Cabinet, but the Prime Minister can't escape the pressure. As many as 24 civil servants have put in bullying complaints about his deputy, Dominic Raab, as questions mount over Nadeem Zahawi's taxes. A transgender woman convicted of rape will not now be sent to a women's prison. The Bond girl suing and getting sued by a film company over a movie that never got made. And meet the 4-year-old who saved his family's life in the middle of the night.
Grayson woke us up at 1:15 in the morning, tapping my husband and saying, "Mummy, Daddy, you need to get up." So my husband came downstairs and checked, and it was actually detecting carbon monoxide.
This is the ITV Lunchtime News with Nina Hossain.
Good afternoon. The number of police-recorded sexual offences across England and Wales has hit a record high. We don't know why they have risen. It could in part be due to more people feeling able to report such attacks and improvements in how police record crime. But what we do know is many victims, including those who have been raped, have to wait years for justice and some never get it at all. Joe Caution has the details.
Sexual offences recorded by police forces in England and Wales are at an all-time high, according to figures from the Office for National Statistics. But charities say more needs to be done to turn greater levels of reporting into greater levels of convictions.
The criminal justice system is letting women down. I think we've seen it a lot over the last few weeks, whether that's about David Carrick and problematic attitudes to women in the Metropolitan Police, to the probation service not monitoring serious offenders like we saw in the case of Zara Alina's murderer.
Between October 2021 and September 2022, there were more than 199,000 sexual offences recorded by 43 police forces. That's up by 22% on the pre-pandemic year to March 2020. In the same period, Home Office data shows charges were brought in just 3% of cases. But one former chief superintendent says forces are not well equipped enough to deal with sexual offences.
And that's what the police are at the moment, a hugely inexperienced workforce. I think added to that, the level of trust in the police is the lowest it's ever been in 200 years. And I think we've seen that the impact on that, particularly when it comes to dealing with violence against women and girls.
High-profile cases like Zara Alina and Sarah Everard's are said to be a factor that have encouraged more victims to come forward. But charities warn that low trust in policing and falling confidence in the justice system could cause more sexual crimes to go unreported. Joe Caution, ITV News.
To our political correspondent Harry Horton now at Westminster. Harry, is it fair to say the justice system doesn't seem to be working for these victims?
Yeah, I think there's an acknowledgement from government, opposition parties and charities that more needs to be done to help victims and increase the rate of prosecution for the perpetrators of sexual offences. Now, there has been this increase in recordings of sexual offences. That doesn't necessarily mean that the number of sexual offences is going up. In fact, you speak to government, they say that, look, it could be encouraging that more of these crimes are being recorded. It indicates perhaps that victims have more confidence in coming forward to report these crimes. Now, Labour says that victims of rape are being let down by the government. They say that action against rapists is failing to keep up with this increased level of reporting. Indeed, one charity today say that they're concerned that faith in the criminal justice system by victims is potentially being destroyed altogether. Now, the government acknowledges that more needs to be done to increase these prosecution prosecutions. It says it wants to see more rapists behind bars. Lots of these crimes that are reported are often historical allegations. They can be, in some cases, more difficult to prove. But I've been speaking to people in the Home Office today, and what they say is that in recent months they're beginning to see improvements in the number of prosecutions being brought forward, more action being brought by police, and they hope that that trend will continue in the months ahead.
Harry Horton, thank you very much for that. Thank you. The Prime Minister is holding an away day for his cabinet at his country retreat Chequers, but isn't managing to get away from the pressure two of his top team are putting on him right now. The Tory party chairman, Nadhim Zahawi, is being investigated over his tax affairs, while Rishi Sunak's deputy, Dominic Raab, is being investigated over accusations of bullying, with the latest report saying at least 24 civil servants have filed complaints against him. Let's speak to our political reporter, Amy Lewis, who is at Chequers. Amy, what's the latest, first of all, on the bullying investigation into Dominic Raab?
Well, Nina, I think it's important, first of all, to point out that this is actually the Prime Minister's first away day since he took office. And so today, Rishi Sunak is going to want to be focusing on his 5 key priorities for the year ahead, including cutting inflation and cutting NHS waiting times. But as you say, there are plenty of distractions. Now, we already knew that there was a bullying investigation around his Deputy Prime Minister, Dominic Raab. What we have learned today is that from sources that around 24 people have made complaints about him. Now, Dominic Raab maintains that he has acted professionally. We did ask today if there was a time frame around when this investigation would conclude. We were told that no time frame as of yet has been set.
And as you say, it's not the only distraction the Prime Minister is facing.
No, of course, as well, Nadhim Zahawi, the Tory party chairman, last week it's been revealed that he has had to pay a penalty to HMRC around his tax affairs. And of course, following that, earlier this week, the Prime Minister launched an investigation. It would be fascinating to know here at Chequers what the atmosphere is like inside Cabinet, because of course some in his party do support him. And in fact, today the Prime Minister's spokesperson was actually asked if the Prime Minister still has confidence in Zahawi, and the response was yes. But we have spoken to people who believe it is time that he stood down. Now, Nadhim Zahawi has maintained that the error, he says, was not deliberate. But Nina, to be inside Chequers today and to be a fly on the wall in Cabinet.
Indeed. Amy Lewis, thank you very much. Thank you. Nicola Sturgeon says the transgender woman Eva Green, who was convicted of rape, will not now be imprisoned in an all-female prison. The First Minister told the Scottish Parliament she hopes the decision will provide assurance to the public after concerns were raised. Earlier today, the Shadow Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, said a dangerous rapist should not be put in a women's prison. STV's political editor, Colin Mackay, joins us now from Holyrood. Colin, take us through exactly what the First Minister, said today.
Well, Eva Green has been convicted of raping 2 women when she was a man known as Adam Graham. Now, since the start of that court case, she's started transitioning to become a woman. So, on conviction this week, Eva Green was taken to Correspondent Vale, Scotland's only female-only prison, and she was held in segregation there before the Scottish Prison Service decided where she should ultimately be detained. Now, at First Minister's questions, the Scottish Conservative leader Douglas Ross said that this beast should not be held in a women's prison. He called on the First Minister to intervene and make sure that she was not held in Correspondent Vale. Nicola Sturgeon has since made it clear that Eva Green will not continue to be held in a women's prison.
This prisoner is not going to be incarcerated in Correspondent Vale, either short term or long term. There is an importance of allowing the Scottish Prison Service operationally to give effect to what I have just said.
Now, the Scottish Prison Service figures show that in the run-up to September last year, there were 15 trans prisoners held in Scottish jails, 11 of them trans women, 4 of them trans men, and they were split almost 50-50 between male and female prisons. But this is a much bigger deal than many of them, because this is a rape case, and it comes in the midst of a huge row because the Scottish Parliament just before Christmas voted to make it much easier for people to change gender, and that has since been blocked by the UK government. And now I can tell you that just in the last few minutes it's been confirmed that Isla Bryson will be moved from Conton Vale this afternoon, and she will be moved to a male prison.
Colin Mackay, thank you very much for that, including that last-minute update. Thank you. The British car industry has gone into reverse. The number of cars rolling off production lines has fallen to the lowest level since the 1950s. And in a sign of the future direction of where we're going, a record number of electric or hybrid vehicles are being made, as Barbara Holmes now reports.
It's almost 70 years since the number of cars built in the UK was as low as it was last year. Back then, fewer than a third of households in England owned a car. But the reason for the fall in production is a very modern one. The pandemic created a global shortage of the semiconductor chips needed for the electronics used in most cars, meaning UK manufacturers couldn't keep up with demand.
So the shortage of semiconductors that we're experiencing now is really pandemic related. It's a hangover from the pandemic, and it is a global issue. It is not just affecting UK car manufacturers. So manufacturers all over the world are experiencing problems getting hold of these critical chips, and there are a lot of them in cars, which has obviously had a really big impact on their ability to produce the vehicles and the quantities to meet demand.
Over 750,000 cars were built last year. That's down almost 10% compared to 2021, and almost 40% lower than the year before the pandemic. Another reason given for the fall in numbers was the closure of Honda's Swindon plant in July of 2021. And also the decision in April last year by car manufacturer Stellantis to stop making Vauxhall Astras in its Ellesmere Port factory so it can switch over to producing electric cars and vans. That switch to electric vehicles is a trend reflected more widely in the figures. Almost a third of cars built last year were fully electric or hybrid. But that part of the industry has its difficulties too. Just last week, electric car battery startup Britishvolt collapsed with the loss of nearly 300 jobs. The government has said they are determined the UK remains one of the best locations in the world for automotive manufacturing. But car makers will want to see them get that show on the road. Barbara Holmes, ITV News.
A legal battle involving the actor Eva Green over the collapse of a film project is designed to paint her as a diva to damage her reputation, the High Court has heard. The former Bond girl is possibly most well known for her starring role in Casino Royale.
Thank you. Your boss must be well connected. I've never seen so much go out the door so quickly.
Not quite so stylishly. May I ask you where it is?
10 million was wired to your account in Montenegro with a contingency for 5.
She's now the star of a court case. To our reporter, entertainment reporter Rishi Davda, who's at the court. Take us through what's been said so far.
Well, today saw the start of opening statements, all in relation to a sci-fi film called A Patriot, which had a budget of around £4 million. Eva Green was supposed to star in the film and be the executive producer. She's suing the production company, White Lantern Films, claiming she's entitled to the £800,000 fee, despite the fact that production was shut down in 2019. White Lantern Films are countersuing, claiming that Miss Green had unreasonable demands and undermined the film's production. In addition to that, they've presented some text messages where they allege that the former Bond actor Miss Green referred to a film's producer as evil, a devious sociopath and pure vomit. Her lawyer told the court that this case is being used to paint Miss Green as a diva and go on to damage her reputation. Miss Green is due to give evidence on Monday as the trial continues.
Rishi Davda, thank you. The Newcastle United star Joe Linton has been fined less than a week's wages after admitting drink driving. The Brazilian midfielder was fined £29,000 and given a one-year driving ban after failing a breath test earlier this month. And Asda has announced 300 roles are at risk and pay will be reduced for more than 4,000 workers. The supermarket is changing how it stocks its stores overnight, so night shift workers could be moved to daytime roles, losing around £2.50 an hour. Next, so-called cosmetic tweakments such as lip fillers, Botox and liquid nose jobs are on the rise. You can get them on the high street, even at dentists. But just how safe are they? In a moment, I'll be talking to the former Love Island contestant Faye Winter, who's had a variety of treatments, and Lucrezia, who's been investigating the industry which provides them, which some have called the Wild West. First, let's take a look at the clip from the programme Lucrezia has made and why some of these treatments have the potential to cause harm.
A non-healthcare professional really has no accountability. They're not even required to be insured in the UK. So your chances of actually being treated properly and seeking any redress, financial compensation is really actually quite limited. Big part of the problem is that people now perceive these treatments as low-risk beauty treatments as opposed to medical treatments that do carry quite severe risks if they are injected incorrectly or they use unsafe products, which unfortunately is on the rise.
As you can see, Faye and Lucrezia are with me. Faye, are you worried about the safety of these treatments, or do you see them as low risk?
I think through my experiences, I think there's a massive issue that needs to be addressed here in the UK when it comes to these treatments, and it's a shame that I've had to go through the worst of it and come out the other side to be able to speak about it properly. But there is a lot that needs to be done.
What have you found, Lucrezia, from your investigations?
Yeah, well, as Faye says, there is quite a lot to be done. It was quite eye-opening, really. You heard from Ashton there at the beginning of that clip. She's from Save Face, which set up a government-approved injectables register. Now, they say that last year alone, they got 3,000 complaints, the majority of which, 86%, were about people with absolutely no medical standing whatsoever. You're talking about procedures like Botox and dermal fillers, and in the wrong hand, they can cause some serious damage. You can see here, this is one woman I spoke to anonymously. We called her Sarah. Now, she had Botox for the first time, or anti-wrinkle treatment. She was told it was Botox for the first time last year. It caused one of her eyes, her eyelids, to completely droop. She couldn't even see out of one of her eyes in the end. Now, she got that after seeing an ad on Facebook for £80. The experts told us that Botox should be costing you £200, really. The problem is, the law as it stands in England is that anyone can administer these injectables. They don't need any medical qualifications. Campaigners say it's left the door wide open for rogue practitioners, and one MP, as you said earlier, describing it as the Wild West.
Faye, does it concern you that somebody like yourself, and there are so many people out there now on Instagram, influencers, TV personalities, are actually contributing to the rise in the number of people that are getting these treatments and therefore potentially putting themselves at risk?
I think it's very easy to blame people in the public eye for that, but actually Botox and fillers are everywhere in the UK. You know, that can be from your doctor, your dentist, that could be from somebody that's serving you your morning coffee. Regular people are getting these treatments done. I just think now we need to ensure that they're getting done safely, and, you know, we can put the blame wherever we want to try to put it, but actually we are all human. We should have our own thoughts and feelings on getting these treatments, and you should get them done for yourself. And I'm not here to tell anybody not to get these treatments done. I just really want people to look at getting them done safely.
And will you still get stuff done yourself?
You know, if I choose to, it's my body. And absolutely, I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm not going to do anything in the future, but right now I'm happy with the way I look.
And what have you regretted that you've had done in the past?
So previously, I spoke about it on the documentary. I had Botox, which fully paralysed my forehead to the point that I couldn't move it. My whole forehead dropped. I had hardly any eyelids. I couldn't do any facial expressions.
And yet you'd still go again?
I think now that I know the industry more and I know who's safe and where I can find safe people to do it that are medically trained, I do fully trust them, yes.
proposals to tighten up rules and regulations regarding this. Have you got any good news for us?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's important what Faye says. I mean, safety is the key issue here, isn't it? This is what campaigners are calling for. The genie's out of the bottle. People are going to get Botox and fillers. That's not going to stop. Last year, the government said it would be cracking down, making it a criminal offence for anyone to operate without a licence and insurance. The problem is there's no time frame for this new legislation in England. Also, you know, we don't know what the specifics of a licence means. A government spokesperson also said, if you are considering cosmetic procedure, take the time to find a reputable, insured and qualified practitioner. Great common sense advice, but campaigners say until the law changes, if it is the Wild West, then the cowboy road practitioners are getting away with it, aren't they?
Lucrezia, thank you very much. We look forward to that documentary. Faye Winter, thank you very much for coming in to talk to us. Thank you. And you can watch Botched Inside the Beauty Business tonight at 8:30 on ITV1 and ITVX and at 10:45 tonight on STV. Finally, this lunchtime, the hero 4-year-old who saved his family's life. When Grayson Taylor heard an alarm going off when everyone had gone to bed, he woke his parents up. Luckily, he did, as it was the carbon monoxide alarm. His mum says it was her son's time to shine. Sangeeta Kandola has the story of the boy, his quick thinking and his bravery award.
What he's done is not only potentially saved us, but also taught a lesson to everyone how important it is to have working alarms in your properties.
Fast-thinking 4-year-old Grayson Taylor has been credited with saving his family from carbon monoxide poisoning. After hearing a low-level beeping sound coming from downstairs during the middle of the night, he knew instinctively to alert his parents to the alarm.
Grayson woke us up at 1:15 in the morning. Tapping my husband and saying, "Mummy, Daddy, you need to get up." So at first we thought it was just the battery warning that it was low. So my husband came downstairs and checked, and it was actually detecting carbon monoxide.
It's thought the alarm was set off by an open fire in the living room. The family evacuated and waited for the fire service to carry out safety checks. Since then, Grayson has been hailed a hero.
A lot of parents saying that their children had come home about Grayson the hero and what he'd done. I know some parents have been checking their own alarms.
Well, Grayson has just been awarded a Queen Elizabeth II Bravery Award, recognising his outstanding behaviour and actions.
I'm so incredibly proud of him, and I just feel so privileged to have him.
The 4-year-old has always had a huge interest in alarms, and now his family have put him in charge of checking all the devices at home on a regular basis. Sangeeta Kandola, ITV News.
What a superstar. That's all we've got time for this lunchtime. A very busy Lucrezia will be back with the evening news at 6:30 from everybody on today's Lunchtime News team. Bye-bye.